Hi, and welcome to Cinema Figures. I'm your host, Caitlin, and today we are continuing with Sharkathon. So today's film is another dive into sci-fi goodness, and that is Swamp Shark. Yes, that's right, Kristy Swanson against a swamp shark and gators. Yes. Alright, so before anyone asks, these sci-fi movies, they are not necessarily great movies. They're not. They're cheap budgets, they're very rushed, very clunky. There's bad acting throughout, there's bad writing throughout. However, they're a lot of fun. I love the bad CGI in this. I love the campy sharks. I love the poor acting in this. This movie is a lot of fun. So when we get on into it, we find out that, of course, the gators here, alligators, are a big part of this community. And, of course, the swamp is, the gators, the swamp, everything, it's all very integral to this community. So much so that they actually have a festival every year known as Gator Fest. And we find out that this weekend is the brand new Gator Fest this year. So that is when we find out that our sheriff is doing some little shady dealings and apparently is smuggling endangered and rare animals. I don't know how or why he would want this shark, but there is this crazy, like, basically almost armored shark because it just has this tough, almost like gator skin or like alligator skin, just armor over this freaking shark. It's really hard to explain. I almost feel like I should just put a clip of it up here. This shark looks strange. This shark looks so strange, but it also makes the shark very hard to kill, which is actually very entertaining. So during the transport, there is a bit of a accident. The shark is able to escape into the swamp, and that's when the sheriff's like, well, this is gonna suck. So instead of him going out and trying to hunt down the shark, trying to make a big deal of it, trying to clean up the situation on his own, he just kind of goes on about his business and doesn't really worry about it. Well, this is gonna get a lot of people killed and make one heck of a sci-fi movie. So, back to the Gator Shed. Alright, so the Gator Shed is Kristy Swanson's character's family restaurant. So we see Kristy, her older brother Swampy, which that's his nickname apparently. We find out that he's an ex-football star, and he's just a really big, really cool dude. So, you know, him. And their baby sister, Crystal. I say baby sister, but she's like 17, 18. She is hopefully gearing up for college and waitressing at the family restaurant in order to try to save up for it. So, we find out that a big part of their restaurant is their gators. They have a large gator enclosure where they feed the gators, and it's kind of a big deal. Everyone loves it. It brings in the crowds, and these gators are very important to their business. Now, we have a bit of an issue with a drunken dispute. So, the town drunk is making a fool of himself in the restaurant, and Swampy goes to try to politely walk him out. This doesn't go very well. He ends up taking a swing at Swampy, and Swampy knocks him out, basically. So the police were called, saying there was a ball brawl, and they saw Kristy's older brother just lay into this guy. So ultimately, it's up to Kristy to do some flirting with the sheriff, which, by the way, this town sheriff is a sleazeball. And it doesn't matter that she's got a boyfriend yet. She's dating her bartender, or the fact that there's this mysterious new guy that keeps flirting with her. Yes, this weird old sheriff really just lays it on thick. He calls her his future wife in several scenes. He asks her if that's any way for her to speak to her future husband. He references them having kids at some point. He just lays it on thick the entire time, and she's not interested. It's kind of clear that she's not interested, but he just never really stops throughout, and it's just kind of like, ugh. Anyway, her flirting with him is a way to get her brother out of cuffs and to try to just kind of dissolve the tension of the situation. So later on that night, the same individual that got into a fight with her brother decides he needs to get a little bit of revenge against this family. So he shows up with a large bottle of poison that has the whole skull and crossbones, which, by the way, who just sells some random person a large bottle of poison, like something you would see out of an old movie, like the guy with the twirly mustache, ha ha, they'll never find out now, I've poisoned the water supply, ha ha, yeah, like that kind of a bottle of poison, like, seriously? Anywho, he's there to poison their gators. He's trying to hurt their business, and he's saying how successful is the gator shed going to be without gators? However, he doesn't know that Swamp Shark has already made some pretty quick work of the gator shed's gators, unfortunately. He already got in the enclosure, and he ate them. He ate all of them. So when this individual goes to try to poison the gators, he gets eaten by a swamp shark. And Kristy Swanson's character, she gets alerted to this. I don't know if they actually live in this bar or what, but she seemed to have a room in the back, and she ran out in her pajamas with a very large gun, so kudos for you there. And she's there to protect her gators, to protect her restaurant, her family, what have you, and solid throughout. So the next day they actually find what is left of their gator pen, just a huge bloody mess. And the question of what happened to the gators. It's like something ate them. Ate them. All of them. So this is when we deal with the idea of there might be a shark in the water, and we do get a little bit of a sighting here. Of course, the police do end up showing up, and they find parts of the guy that Swampy got into an altercation with, so Swampy gets arrested, unfortunately. And it just kind of, well, he doesn't get arrested at this point, but, you know, he's a person of interest. He's a person of interest, we'll put it that way. Anywho, so we find out that apparently the insurance company made Kristy and her family put tracking chips in each one of their gators. So that's kind of a great way to keep the plot going. So we look up on a gator tracker app. Yes, apparently they have a tracking app for your gator. The same way like you chip your cat or you chip your dog, you can chip your gator apparently. So they see all of the chips all moving in one area. So it's as if this thing ate every single bit of these gators. And it's swimming through one centralized area. Of course, they do decide to go out hunting for this thing. And we do find out that yes, it is a swamp shark. A very, very scary swamp shark. So we do get to see a lot of our stereotypical characters thrown in to be shark bait here. Some horny teenagers are taken out pretty quickly in a boat. Crystal, Kristy's little sister, of course, she's at the restaurant, you know, just doing her job, and these two college guys, they're kind of flirting with her and inviting her back to their boat. And she ends up taking their number anyway. And she's like, yeah, my sister would totally kill me and then stomp on my grave and then dig me up and kill me again. But yeah, she takes their number. Yeah, this guy Scott, she takes his number. Scott's a jerk. We're going to find that out later, but he's a total jerk. Anywho, so continuing on, Christy, her older brother, and her boyfriend are all trying to hunt down this shark and to try to stop it before anything else big happens. And Crystal's kind of feeling left out throughout all this. So ultimately, she decides to call this guy, and she decides to actually go on his boat with him. So this was a poor decision on Crystal's part, because this guy is an a-hole, and a capital a-hole, because when she starts telling them that they should stay off the water, there's a shark in the water, it's dangerous, they laugh at her. She tells them she wants off the boat. He won't let her off the boat. She tries to call her sister for help to get off the boat. He then takes her phone from her, calls her crazy, and throws it out in the water, destroying her phone. And, you know, his friends are a lot nicer, and they're apologizing to her, one of which is actually offering to buy her a new phone when they're done with all of this. You know, they're really sorry about Scott and him just being a jerk. So she ends up using the radio to try to call for help. And he smashes the radio into like a gajillion pieces. Yeah, your emergency radio that you don't actually own on this boat that you rented, yeah, that's going to be a great fee when you get that. Well, actually, when your parents get that, just saying. Just saying. But his friends are pretty pissed off about that as well. He's being a jerk. And that's when our group of college kids, their boat gets stuck. It's tangled up in a bunch of moss and greenery from the swamp. And now they have to figure out how they're going to get free. Of course, Crystal's telling them nobody should be in that water. And Scott says, well, we're drawing straws, and Crystal, you're no one special. You have to draw too. So she doesn't even want to be on this boat. She's tried multiple times to get off this boat. You wouldn't let her off. And now you're telling her, oh, well, you're nothing special. You have to get off. You would have to get in the water too. So his friend actually steps up and takes her straw, which, you know, really nice guy there. His friends are really nice. Scott's just a jerk. But thankfully, Scott draws the shortest straw, and he has to get into the water. So this is him attempting to try to fix the situation. He gets eaten by a shark. I'm okay with him getting eaten by a shark. He was a jerk. But with all this going on, there was a rope, and said rope was still attached to the boat. So when all that happened, the shark was pulling it, and the rope gets caught around one of the characters' throats, and it's cutting her. So they do end up actually managing to cut the rope to where it doesn't actually kill her, but she is seriously injured, and her boyfriend now has to do something to try to save her. So he has decided that he is going to dive back into the water to try to fix, well, not dive back into the water, but, you know, try to fix everything and get them unstuck, get the boats probably unstuck. And the big part of that is he's going to be stretched across the end, and he expects Crystal to hold his feet. This doesn't exactly work out, and he ends up getting eaten by a shark. Yeah, he's a nice guy. Bye, though. Anywho, Christy and the others are actually saved by, I said Christy. Crystal is actually saved by her older sister and their group, as well as the girl Sarah, who had her throat cut a little bit by the rope. But this is this is when we find out that Christy's boyfriend is kind of a show-off and not very smart, because instead of just letting someone else save one of the girls, he decides to push that person and say, no, I'm gonna get her. You know, like, I can't let Mr. Federal Agent have all the fun and have all the credit. He ends up getting knocked into the water and eaten by a shark. So Christy's now upset because her boyfriend, her bartender boyfriend, who would flirt with other girls in front of her and then be a jerk to her whenever any guy even smiled at her, is now dead. So continuing on, we are dealing with the fact that they now have to find a way to stop Gatorfest. They have to save the people, and they have to just continue on, right? So there is a big crazy thing where they end up stealing a fan boat. They're stealing gas tanks, propane tanks, and a bunch of chum, and putting together a little bait trap there to try to blow the shark up. They do all this craziness. There's actually a scene in this where they're at Gatorfest. No one quite believes them that there's a shark. And then they see the shark, and everyone's freaking out. Everyone's yelling shark. Everyone's screaming. There's a group of about 4 boys that are in the water swimming and playing. You're telling me these boys didn't hear anyone scream shark, anyone scream about getting out of the water? None of it. None of it at all. They're just splashing around, having a great time. And the shark is getting very, very close to them, and you're getting a little concerned that these munchkins are going to be shark bait. I know I was. But it's all good because it's a sci-fi movie, and, apparently I've learned from sci-fi movies that munchkins are... Sorry, that was my phone. I thought I had that on silent. I'm so sorry. We find out that munchkins are always safe because the shark has to jump out of the water in order to eat the bad sheriff. Yes, the bad man gets eaten by a shark that has jumped out of the water and is now kind of walking on the beach to, like, I don't know, growl at people. This scene's really ridiculous. You get to see the full extent of the shark, and he's a little ridiculous looking, but he's kind of spectacular. Like, he's got the whole tufts of rough skin, and he's just not very size proportionate to what we've seen earlier. So it's like, he's just this massive shark now. I'm like, all right, massive, bad CGI shark. Shut up, phone. I am so sorry. Just this massive, bad CGI shark. But, of course, they do end up trying to blow up the shark. It doesn't work. And instead, they come up with the idea of turn on the fan. And they end up pulling the shark to the fan and just... fan versus shark. Fan wins. I love this movie. This movie is crazy throughout. The main cast of this movie is a lot of fun. Yes, the dialogue's very clunky. Yes, the CGI is very bad. The gore's a little hokey at times, but I had a lot of fun with this. It was campy throughout. It was a pretty cute, fun film. Definitely more of a comedy than a horror film, in my opinion, but I would highly suggest it if you're a sci-fi fan at all. If you're a fan of bad movies at all, I would highly, highly suggest checking out Swamp Shark. So yeah, that is it for this episode.